Always a pleasure to have my next guest on the show. You know who it is, the Joker, Jay Perrin, who will be back in action for Cage Titans on July the 22nd at Cage Titans 60 when he takes on Lionel Young. Jay, how are you?
Mm. I'm great, man. I feel wonderful, 3 weeks. I can't wait to get back in the cage, honestly. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, nice to have you back on the show. Obviously, we talked a little bit during the Ugly Truth Fight Picks podcast. You joined me a few times. Can't wait to
Mm.
have you back and do
Anytime.
that. But before we transition into this upcoming fight and everything you got going on right now, I want to rewind and talk about your last fight. That was in December.
Yep.
Obviously, the loss to Rosas Jr. I think it's safe to say that that was very disappointing for you. I think you and everyone else expected a more competitive fight. Maybe just can you just kind of sum it up? How difficult that was and what you learned.
Uh Look, man, I like if I could be completely honest, I my ego got to me in that fight, man. And I was cool until about the week of the fight, and then all the media stuff comes and hits you, and I think that's something you're not really prepared for. You never really get prepared for. And as someone who's really like kind of a private guy, most for the most part about like my personal life, to have like all that shit hit me at once and my ego and all that, it just took over, and I went into that fight with the wrong mindset on top of. And again, I haven't said it for 6 months. And as soon as I say this, people are going to hop on me and be like, he's making an excuse. And I'm not. I cut 38 pounds for that fight. You know what I mean? That was the worst weight cut I've ever been through. I didn't feel strong in that fight at all. Like him picking me up should never have happened. But I made the wrong move. And that was basically it. I fought with my ego instead of my brain. And, I disappointed myself and made a fool of myself because I am much better than that. And I'll still say to this day, 9 times out of 10, Raul's not beat me in a fight. Again, there were a lot of factors that led up to that. I was going through a lot of stuff. So I'd been taking SSRIs prior, like antidepressants. And I hadn't realized that they had really kind of put on 5 or 6 extra pounds on me. And, that's not, again, I'm not just blaming. That is a big factor. And when you're cutting a ton of weight, I sat in that sauna for 3 hours, man, like 3 hours. And every single time I got out of there for maybe 5 minutes, all I did was half pass out on the floor of the PI, and anybody that cut weight with me that day saw me. I looked terrible, to the point where I've never shaved my head to make weight. You know what I mean? So like, I'm a tough cat, but that shit was tough. And I didn't do well and I didn't perform the way I knew I wanted to. And I paid for it. I made the wrong move. But a lot of people think I retired for some reason. There's a video that went around on TikTok or some shit like that, and it was like, hey, it's me saying I coach Wood. That's probably it for me. And what I was referencing in that was I went 0-3. You know what I mean, in the UFC, and the last performance wasn't good. I was fully aware of what just happened in the cage as soon as it did happen. I knew that was it for me, and that was pretty much it. And I just took 6 months off. You know what I mean? Like it's the first time in my career I ever, I have people that love me that I spent 2 years away from my home and everybody I loved, and I isolated myself, and it wasn't good for my mental health at all. Being in Vegas, like I love the people there that I met there, and Syndicate and everybody that was so wonderful, like they really were. But I was alone like a lot of the time, and it kind of drove me crazy. And I just needed to be surrounded by people that gave a shit about me. Not that there were people in Vegas that didn't, but when you belong to a group of people, when you're at home, and people really want you to succeed, and you're not just like a person in a room, that really means a lot to me. So I just took 6 months to just be a person. You know what I mean? I spent 2 years. I was in the gym for Raul fucking 4 times a day, Ryan. 4 times a day, my man. And it wasn't like 45-minute sessions. These were 2 hour, 3 hour sessions, making weights, trying to make adjustments. I overtrained for that fight. And, I just needed to go home and be around New Englanders and people that, give a shit about me. So that's basically where I've been. I never intended on retiring. I just needed a little break, man. When you aim so high and I missed, you know what I mean? And it sucks because I think I won at least the Arichi Lane fight. I still believe that I won that fight. And like, I don't, you don't see me hopping all over the place and fucking like complaining about it because it was a close fight. You know what I mean? But I still think I did enough. And, it just, I was surrounded by all of my failure. You know what I mean? Like I like in Vegas, I had nobody to really be there for me because everybody's a fighter in Vegas, they're doing their own shit, man. That's what they do. And I can't blame them for like looking at their own career before my emotional well being. So like it just wasn't a place where I could continue to pick myself up from because I didn't have anybody to really like say, hey man, you're gonna be all right, you know, and my worth at home isn't I'm just a fighter and that's the only reason why people really give a shit about me at all is that I might produce. Um, you know, I have a home and people love me for who I am and you know, win, lose or draw, um, I can stand back and know that I'll be okay in that regard. And I think that for me, that's great. Now, you know, for this fight particularly, I've just enjoyed it again. You know, and that's why I was successful at first. It's how I got me to the UFC was that um, I enjoyed fighting. I just enjoyed the fight and not the win or the loss or the fucking weight cut or the you know the implications of this or my social media or anything. I just loved fighting, man, and like I lost that in Vegas, and I think Raul that performance encapsulated um just me losing my way and like not doing what made me successful. So that's where I've been the last 6 months. Spent a lot of soul searching and kind of like figuring out what went wrong and just back to the drawing board, you know. And I'm not done. I'm not dead yet. I just took 6 months off. You know what I mean? Chris Curtis, one of my best friends in the world, took a year and a half off at one point, you know, and look where he is. So
You're right. Yeah.
um, I'm not worried about it. I know I'm much more talented than I got to display, and I'm making adjustments with people around me that want me to win. And not to say that like Syndicate did, you know, I want to like make that in the air. Syndicate was wonderful to me. You know what I mean? They really were. John Wood was so good to me. The Shapiro brothers, all of them, they were so good. Even Eric Nixick was great for me when I went over to Extreme for like a month. You know, everybody there was very accommodating, but like I just needed to go home, and that was basically it. And here I am, you know, 6 months later, I feel great. You know, I'm better than I have been, I feel like in like 2 years. So it's good to be back. I know that was a long answer, but
Yeah.
that's where
No,
I've been.
no, it's exciting to have you back. I can tell you on behalf of all the other New England MMA lovers, welcome back to New England, Jay. We're excited to have you here, my man. And you know, you touched on the loss to Arichi Long. I'll tell you what, I'll never forget interviewing you shortly after that fight, and because I honestly thought you won the fight, I
Mm.
really did,
A lot of people
and
do.
you know, I reached out to Ed. I wanted to talk to you just to get your thoughts, and I could feel the frustration just pouring out of you. So I mean, it's safe to say, you know, anyone that makes it to the UFC, it's their dream. They love what they do, but I just I knew how much this meant to you, you know, and so
My whole
you
life,
fought,
man. It's been my whole
yeah,
life. You know what I mean? Like people really don't get it, and like a lot of people get on my case, and um, you know, because I'm bold, I'm brash a lot, and it's like, bro, you know, you can. Bro, I've put in everything into this. You know what I mean? Like all of my eggs went into this basket, and like for me to you know take a step back because people think I should. It's just always been unacceptable to me, you know. So it's been half my life, man. So like when you get there and you leave just as fast as you got there, you know, it doesn't matter how good of a performance you put up. You look back and you regret it, and that sucks. You know, at least I put on two good performances, and there's no saying that I can't make it back. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But like, it's you get down, and then life kicks you. You know what I mean? And then it just gets worse, and it kind of you know, it's just it's very frustrating, but what can you do? I can't take it back. You know what I mean? Like I can't. The more I think about it and get angry, the more I get stuck in place. So like I just have to move on and try and win. You know what I mean? Win this next fight and then take it from there. You know what I mean? I know how good I am. I know how good I can be. I just have to. You know, my mental was really always the problem, and I think that being home and being surrounded, you know, I have a wonderful family. I have a girlfriend and my stepdaughter that I love, and I have a daughter on the way. In December, and you know what I mean. And I'm surrounded by like a lot of the love that I've always needed, and I think that is very very important to me. So I think with that behind me, I can give all of the performances that I know I am capable of giving.
yeah, no doubt, my man. Very happy for all the personal success for you
Thank you.
too, as well. You know, I wanted to ask too, with everything that you had gone through, the horrible, you know, weight cut, having to cut so much weight, and just not being where you wanted to be, you know, mentally before that fight. Was there ever any thoughts about, you know, pulling out of that Rosas fight? Did that ever cross your mind?
No, because you know because and I don't pull out, man, unless I have to. You know what I mean? Like unless it's like, and I've fortunately, been good with a career where I've never really had a ton of injury. I don't take a ton of damage. I think Batista was the most damage I had really ever taken, and Richie Lang was the first time I'd ever really been wobbled in a fight. So no, because I didn't have a choice, man. You don't have a choice. If I pulled out of that, I was getting cut anyway. You know what I mean? And then I'd have been the guy that got cut. So I took a chance. I knew that I could beat him, and I obviously that didn't happen, but um, no, because you know what, dude, I am so grateful for everything that I got in the UFC. But with the contract, the way that they set people up, it's either do this or leave. You know what I mean? It's like there's not a choice. There's not like a hey, unless I could prove that I was super injured or whatever, and there wasn't a. If I just said no, I don't want to do that right now. You know what I mean? If I said hey, I'm too heavy, they would have cut me either way. You know what I mean? And so you try and keep that dream alive as long as you can, and you don't want to just walk out of your own volition,
Sure.
with nothing else on the horizon. You know what I mean? And then the PFL has done well, and Bellator has obviously done well, but you don't know where you're going to land
Right.
if you just leave. So, it's really the position that I was put in, especially if I had won the Richie Lang fight, I could have said, nah, man, I don't want to do that. And I probably would have gotten away with it. You know what I mean? But I didn't. Because when it comes to the negotiating table, I'm still 0-2 no matter how you dice it up. You know what I mean? The contract, when they're like, hey, they were cool, but you didn't win. So, you know what I mean? You're not really in a position to make shots or call shots. So that's basically it. I didn't have a choice. It's not that I couldn't have, but the choice was don't and leave the UFC and then kind of float
Right.
or try your best and make the weight. I'll never forget the meeting, the somberness of the meeting of checking my weight at the beginning of that. We were in the PI and I sat there and I just had my head in my hands. I was 176 pounds. And they were like, yeah, you got like 5.5 weeks. And I'm like, sick. So, and I made the weight. They like, honestly, the PI told me they have to change the regulations of how cutting weight is done because I made that weight. They thought I was going to be 3 pounds over. And I still made it, but no,
Wow.
that's how that went. Yeah.
You mentioned, PFL, Bellator. There's a lot of other great, promotions that are out there. You can make a lot of money fighting
Mm-hmm.
at a high level. Obviously, right now you're focused on beating Lionel Young, your upcoming opponent for Cage Titans. But when you do look at the future, stringing together a couple of wins, like where do
Yep.
you see yourself a year or two from now?
What's great about MMA, and as somebody that's grown up with the sport, it's cool to see that now finally other fighters are getting paid other places. And maybe, you get that B League shit from the shitty fans because I'm not gonna lie to you, my UFC experience, there's very few nice fans in MMA. I'm not gonna lie, they're fucking terrible people, a lot of them. Um, you get a lot of the B League shit, but all these people are in the same room. You know what I mean? Like if you're in the PFL or you're in the UFC, you probably train in the same fucking room, dude. So you probably fight each other all the time. And people are still stuck on this like bleed for me shit. You know what I mean? That this fighters fight. No, dude, we're fucking prize fighters. At the end of the day, if the PFL offered me $200,000 a fight, just hypothetically, $200,000 a fight to fight for them, and maybe I don't get as much recognition, but my bills are paid and shit like that, and I can live comfortably. Or I go to the UFC and I make 25 and 25. I'm taking the PFL contract because that's my life. You know what I mean? That's my livelihood. So like I think that it's cool that you see people like Shane Burgos isn't like I love Shane Burgos. I love his fight, but like I don't when I think of legends, it's not like somebody I'm thinking is breaking the fucking bank. But then you look at his contract, you're like, Jesus Christ, they're paying this guy. And I think that the fact that that's happening other places is so good for everybody else. So I'm excited that there might be options for me. You know what I mean? I don't have to think that I'm just gonna like go off into obscurity. There's a potential that I wish the PFL had a fucking 35 division. That would be great. But if I grow a little bit and I can be a featherweight, I'll just do that. You know what I mean? Whatever. But to answer your question more directly, I think that it's great that people have options now. You don't have to
Right.
just go for the UFC to make a living. You know what I mean? Bellator pays pretty well, and honestly, they put on some pretty fucking great shows lately. PFL, I don't know, they hit or miss sometimes, but they have really good talent there, and people are getting paid. And you know what I mean? And
Right.
that's really I think the era we're in. People are finally starting to get fucking paid, and like it's exciting for me. You know what I mean? I would love to fight for the UFC again. But if the PFL calls or the Bellator calls, fuck it. I'm not gonna pick Cage Titans
Sure.
over the PFL or the Bellator. As much as I love Cage Titans, it's just whoever pays me more. We're mercenaries, man. And in the
Yeah.
words of Chris Curtis, we go where the money takes us. So it's good.
Okay. Fair enough, my man. Tell me a little bit about your aspirations in the media side of things, because you got your Last Laugh podcast. I know you've done some commentary. Do you see a future for yourself, in the media?
You know what, dude? I've been given the gift of gab. You know what I mean? I'm very good at, and I have an analytical mind. So I think that I love what I do, and I think I'm very good at breaking it down and explaining to people what is happening in front of me. So commentary, I would love to do. John Anik and I have been talking. I've talked in the past about how well I do on the microphone and things like that. And so I always want to be a part of the sport in one way or another. It saved my life in a lot of ways. So if I can coach, if I can do the commentary or the media, maybe even behind a desk somewhere on a show, that would be really cool. And my experiences with John Anik, who is amazing. He was an amazing guy. Honestly, he gave me, I have him in my phone, like I can text him and talk to him about like the show or like what I can do to be better or get more reps and shit. So that's really the end. That's after fighting. When a fighting is done, I can put all of my energy into that. But when you're fighting, you can't do that.
Mhm. Sure.
You can't be putting shit. So like when I'm 3 weeks out, so I have the podcast that I have been recording and editing and all that shit, but I'm not going to put it out because I'm focused on this fucking thing right now. I need to do this right now because the podcast will be there. But yeah, that's my plan after is to coach, get as many reps of that and try and do what you do, man, and just talk to people about it and kind of just be part of the sport.
Yeah, very cool, man. Well, I definitely believe in you. You have a future in this. There's no doubt about it. And to piggyback off what you said about John Anik, that guy is like is a role model to me. He's the standard for commentary. I love doing these interviews. The one thing that honestly I get such a high off of more than anything is doing the New England Fights cage side commentary. Being in that John Anik role for
It's great.
NEF, I feel so alive, man.
When
It's
I do it for
unreal.
Cage Titans, dude, I can't tell you. You know what I mean? It's just so good to see and explain like, hey, from a fighter's perspective, like, hey, he's setting this up, and then as soon as it happens, you know what I mean? Like, this is what he's trying to do, and then they do it right then, and you're like,
Right.
oh, I love this sport so much, and then, it's amazing to be right there. Maybe get a little blood on you, it's good stuff. So yeah.
That's why I got to make sure I wear black next weekend when I go to NEF 53, because I've come close to ruining some of my clothes. So I need to follow the Joe Rogan model and wear black cage
Just
side.
one black T-shirt. He doesn't have many. He just has one, and he
Exactly.
just wears it every time.
Before we transition to camp in this upcoming fight, man, give me a pick. Next weekend UFC 290 featherweight titles on the line. Volk, Yair, who wins? How do they do it?
Hulk is a nightmare, dude. You know what I mean? Like, look at what he did to Makachev. That's crazy. It's hard, and I like Yair, but I'm just very impressed with Vulcan, and I think that he has more ways to win. You know what I mean? Like, there's if Yair becomes a little bit too much on the feet, which is hard to imagine, because if you look at his resume as of late, Volk has been a striking monster. He's just absolutely just, and like what he did to Max, I really feel like that's understated. Do you know what I mean? Like the Taporia fight the other day, which was a masterclass in MMA boxing. Like when you think of how you want to box in an MMA fight, that's what Ilya did. And then people compare that to Max versus Cater. Do you know what I mean? They always go to Max versus Cater, but they forget about what Volk did to him. You know what I mean? Like that last fight that they had was so far removed. Like the gap between them was so crazy, and nobody talks about it. And I'm like, that's where Volk's at right now. Like if Max is so far ahead of everybody boxing wise, and then Volk put his mitts on him for 5 rounds, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I feel like the striking of Yair is nullified at that point, and if he can grapple with Makachev and like make him panic, because Makachev was panicked in that fight because he couldn't put him away. I don't know, man. It's hard to like root against Volk. You know what I mean? He's short, he's stout, he's powerful. You know what I mean? He's fast. He's technically brilliant. It's very hard. I think that Yair is going to need to put on like a really special performance And I know everybody talks about the upward elbow, which I, honest to God, think was the luckiest thing that ever happened. I don't think that that was on purpose. I think he just ducked and his elbow came up. I don't think it was like by design that he dipped his head all the way vertical and fucking threw this just straight back. I just don't believe it. So clearly Volk. I'm going with
Okay.
Volk on that one. Not that Yair's not a deadly striker. It's just too many paths to victory for the champion. And dude is the most dominant MMA fighter in the world. Well, in the UFC at least right now. It's hard to pick against him, in my opinion.
I'm with you too. I got Volk all day. I think we see and still here next weekend, UFC 290.
100%.
Tell me, man, how camp has been going thus far. Obviously, we're still a few weeks out, anyways,
Yeah.
3 weeks. Who have been the main guys you've been getting you working with?
Bro, you know who's been so fucking cool? Me and Randy Costa have been thick as thieves this camp, dog. I can't tell you how much I appreciate him. He's really kind of taken me into his little bubble that he has, and all the places that he goes that I get to tag along in, and we've gotten really good cross training with a lot of places. And like I said, dude, I fell back in love with the game before I really took the fight. So I'm there every day. 9 a.m. sharp. I might be there even earlier. I'm the first one in. I might be one of the last people to leave the session. So I'm there 6 days a week. I'll be there for 7 today. Like tomorrow, I'm going to wrestle. It's been great, dude. I've really obviously the Rahul fight I got subbed. So clearly I've just been doing fucking nogi with Joe Lozon for months. Just every goddamn day I am on the mat. And my striking has come a long way too. I went back to my basics, just back to my roots, and I'm there every day. I'm enjoying it. And really, dude, everything I've learned about me is that what made me successful again was me just enjoying myself and just kind of flow stating from the fight itself and just taking things kind of exchange to exchange. And so that's been a real big focal point of my fight camp. It's just relaxed, dude, because I've been here before. It's my 18th professional fight. Nothing's gonna change. I'm gonna have a great time in there, and when I do that, I'm able to put the things together that I want to. And Randy's been such a big help. Real good sparring partner. You know what I mean? Super good sparring partner. Andrew Valdina, all the Lozon cats. You know what I mean? There's a lot of good talent in New England. And I'm really appreciative of them and how much they've kind of embraced me, and it's been great, dude. That's the best way I can do. I'm on point in every way that you can think. Featherweight Jay's loading, and hopefully he retains some power, gets a knockout, because then I'm gonna tell my manager this is gonna happen more. Because fuck all of that 35 shit. That's been crazy. Shit is fucking too small. Too small.
What's your weight at today, right now?
Like 11 pounds over, dude. I'm not like I'll wake up week of the fight, I'll be like 5 pounds out. It won't really be that big. But I took 45 because one, my opponent unfortunately has a history of not making weight at 135, and two, I have PTSD from the last cut, so I don't want to do that.
Fair enough.
And I can focus just on fighting. I can just fight. I don't have to worry about, did I have this many calories today? Did I burn enough in this one? Do I need to have an extra session? That people don't really get that. Like, dude, I'll tell you, every fighter has some kind of eating disorder, like guaranteed. You know what I mean? Like if they cut a lot of weight, it's a 100% guarantee they have some kind of undiagnosed eating disorder.
Unless they're a heavyweight, right?
Dude, fuck heavyweights. You know what I mean? Like, I hate that they get a 40-pound fucking, like, what? What is this shit? We get 15, we get 1 pound allowance. They can be 220 to 265. Just go fuck yourselves. You know what I mean? This sucks.
I said all along. Yeah, it's crazy. And I've said all along too, Jay, I firmly believe there should be a cruiserweight division in the UFC. 225, break it up from light heavyweight.
245, 240, even like make it a 10-pound thing. There's no reason for there to be why is somebody that's weighing in at 225 fighting a guy that's 265 and he's tipping the scale? That doesn't make any sense, bro. I get that like 225 is still a big person, but a 40-pound weight differential, that's considered even ground. That's the whole point of a weight class, is to make sure we're here. So everybody else has to be the same number. Maybe 1 pound off, but not these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand the logic behind the MMA heavyweight division. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so it's so broad that you could be anybody, be 4-0, and just be in the UFC as a heavyweight now. And there's, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. I don't like that. As a person that is smaller and has to like be precise with their weight, you see these guys that are like, yeah, I walk around like 255. I don't give a fuck. I'll do whatever. I'll eat burgers and shit. Fuck you. You know, I hate you.
I'm with you, man. I
Dude, I
completely
hope you
agree.
trip and knock your 2 front teeth out. Like that's what I hope for you. You know, you brag about that shit.
Jay, tell me how excited you are to be back at Plymouth Memorial Hall fighting for Cage Titans.
You know, Case Titans is where I started my run. You know what I mean? And Mike Polbear has always been really good about supporting me and all that. I don't always get well received at Plymouth Memorial Hall for whatever reason or another, but it's home. You know, yeah, I built something there, and I never lost there. So I'm undefeated there. No one's ever beaten me there in as a corner or as a fighter. And then will be no different in 3 weeks. It feels good, man. I think honestly, I've seen a lot of shows. I've watched a lot of shows and around the country. You know, cornering, watching my friends fight, fighting myself. And Case Titans puts on a production that is top notch. It's very hard. You know, you see a lot of people, especially out west, that hear about like my manager saw the production there like this. They put on a great show. You know, so it's cool because they're growing. Like I came from like the old gen. You know, I'm not like part of the new gen of the wave of Cage Titans, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They've gotten so much better about their their video, the videography, their build up, their they got the Hell in the Cell lights that they got, and it's cool. You know, I have like my old highlights are like blurry. You know what I mean, comparatively to like
To what they are
they
now.
have now. So like it'll be cool to see the different angles of the fight and how they've decided to break it down. So Case does a really good job. You know what I mean? Sometimes people are shitty in the crowd, but that's MMA,
Yeah, that's
So
it's
I'm
MMA for
excited.
you.
I really am excited. It's like I can't, I get butterflies in my stomach, and some people are like, "Are you anxious?" I'm like, "No, dude. I'm just fucking hype. Like I just want to go in there and enjoy myself. You know what I mean? That's I cannot wait to do that. It's gonna be and I think I'm gonna because of that I'm gonna put something special on for it.
Well, you got another tough opponent. I mean, Lionel Young is one of those guys, like when you look at his record, 11 and 19, it's not really an accurate representation of how good he is, right? Because you look at who he's fought. I mean, most recently he lost to Tom Pags, but he also was in there with some guy named Rob Font, Sean
Yep.
Soriano,
Mm-hmm.
Peter Barrett. He's been in there with some tough
Tough
guys.
dude.
So when you look at him and what he brings to the table, what kind of a fight are you expecting?
The thing about Boogs is he's a tough guy. He'll come to fight you. He's gonna come to fight me. Slows down real quick. Slows down real fast. He's real powerful. He's very slow. He's very works with a lot of Muay Thai guys. He's got good Thai, good kicks. Plots forward. He's fought all these tough. You know what I mean? Like that's the stat. But the thing is, dude, you gotta be more than tough. You know what I mean? Like where I'm at now, like I'm sorry, I've been doing this a long fucking time. You gotta be better than tough, and you're not. In my opinion, he's not better than tough. He's got a good looping hook. Real good. He's very long. He's taller than me, so that's gonna be a challenge to overcome at first in the first few minutes of the fight. But I've said it before, and again, like I said in the beginning of this, and this is the part where people think that I'm arrogant, bro. I put everything into this, so there's just not one part of this I don't feel like I'm better than you at, and I intend to prove that. And if it goes to the ground at all, if we stay there, I'm going to win in the next 120 seconds. Guarantee it. I'm going to take his arm home. But as far as like he has got good pop on his punches, he's got a good chin. The problem is he's got a really power puncher style, and you can't maintain that. Like it's impossible to maintain. And the pace that I push is going to be crazy. Like there's not going to be, I don't take a back step. You're not going to like, and if you back me up, I'm coming right back into your face. Like I'm stepping right forward. So he folds under pressure after a while. And I just fully plan to exploit that. I intend to be in his face the whole time. I want to finish. I want to send a message to everybody else, including, people that have a lot to say about me. And Boogs, at least at the very least, showed up. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that have a lot to say about me, but don't show up or don't sign stuff. And Boogs did. So while I commend him for that, I have to make an example of that and make sure that everybody realizes that the 3 losses that I have prior to that, I won 8 in a row. So that's where I'm at. I do think it's going to be a tough. Like, I'm not trying to dismiss him in any regard and say that he's not dangerous, but as time goes on, I don't get tired, and you do, and that's just going to be the end of that. You know what I mean? At the end of the first round, we're going to see who's huffing and puffing, and it's not damn sure not going to be me. So he's tough for the first 3 minutes, and then I'm going to take over, guaranteed.
Okay. So second round finish, is that your prediction?
Second round finish. Most of my finishes are in the second round. I download information in the first round. I'm a boxer at heart, so if I can find the opening in the first, but I like to make reads in my first round. You know what I mean? And I can finish by the second. If I make the right one, then doesn't matter. Like I said, if I take his back, that's over. That's the game right there. So that's my plan. You know, I'm gonna go in there and enjoy it. And if I can snatch his neck in the first, sure. If I can knock him out in the first, sure. But I'm just gonna let the fight come to me and see what happens. You know, watch out for his big power and do what I do in there.
I'm excited to see you back in there, Jay. Again, July 22nd, Cage Titan 60, the Joker back in action against Lionel Young. Always great talking to you, my man. I really appreciate the time. One of my favorite guys to interview. Before we do sign off, as always, I want to give you the floor. Tell people where they can follow you on social media. If you have anything to plug, anyone to thank, the floor is yours.
So I want to thank one of my sponsors, Battle Wound Apparel, who, you know, is one of my sponsors for like been a long time. You can find me on Instagram at Joker_gang35. Same thing on Twitter. I don't really have a lot to plug, guys. If I could just say one thing, and you know, it means a lot to me. I don't know if it'll make the interview or whatever if you'll play this, but
Of course.
you know, I have buried another friend of mine recently, and if you're having a hard time, man, please say anything. Like, just say anything to a stranger. Message me. We don't even have to fucking know each other, man. I have buried too many of my friends to suicide, to their own minds, to just, I just can't do it anymore. Like, I just can't. So please, if you're having a hard time, it's okay to admit that. It's okay to because we all are. Everybody is. Everybody's having a hard time, and you're not alone. And please just reach out to somebody, and we can help. That's it. Even if we don't have the solution right away, we can help you find one, you know. And if you're in the dark for a while, I promise I'll come and sit with you for a while until we can find your way the fuck out. But please don't make your friends bury you. Coming from me, I'm on number 6, guys. 6, and that's just far too many. So, and 1 is too many. 1 is too many, and I'm on 6. So please, please, from the bottom of my heart, if you are having a hard time, even reach out to a stranger if you need to, and we'll figure it out. All right, you're gonna be all right. I hope the best for you, and everybody be safe over the weekend.